Welcome to Mental Fitness at Your Desk, a brand new live series by Nia, designed to help you tackle life's challenges with more confidence and calm. My name is Noreen Chaudhary, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. We are excited to have you here today. In each session, we'll guide you through exercises rooted in evidence based practices to help you build resilience and maintain mental well being. Whether you're dealing to handle stress, anxiety, or just looking to enhance your mental strength, these sessions are here to support you. Today, we are going to explore a crucial aspect of social anxiety and the anxiety cycle. Also, particularly how avoidance behaviors keep us stuck in it. More importantly, we'll dive into the thoughts that fuel social anxiety and talk about simple, practical ways to handle it. By the end of this, you'll be in a better position to understand how social anxiety works and gain some effective strategies for managing it in everyday life. Let's start by defining what social anxiety is. Social anxiety is more than just being shy or introverted. It's an intense fear or worry about social situations where you may feel judged, criticized, or embarrassed. It's not just about being uncomfortable in a social setting, it's about the overwhelming fear that something might go wrong and that others will notice your every misstep. This can happen in a wide range of situations. For example, at school or work, you may feel anxious about speaking up in a meeting or participating in a group discussion. The thought of making a mistake or being judged by colleagues or classmates might stop you from contributing at all. In social gatherings like a party or a dinner with friends, you may worry about not fitting in, being judged for what you say, or feeling awkward if there's a lull in conversation. Even in everyday interactions, such as going to grocery store or meeting new people, social anxiety can make even simple encounters feel daunting. You may overthink what to say to the cashier or worry about how to start a conversation with a stranger. What's key here is that the social anxiety is persistent, that often leads to avoiding these situations altogether. That avoidance is a major part of the problem. And we'll talk more about why that happens and how to break out of that cycle. Now let's understand the anxiety cycle. What really happens? Imagine you've been invited to a gathering or you need to attend a meeting at work. Now, this event is the trigger, something that stirs up the anxiety. You might not even fully understand why you feel anxious about it, but your body and mind reacts almost automatically. As soon as you become aware of the situation, anxious thoughts start to flood your mind. These automatic thoughts can be as in a particular fashion. What if I say something awkward? Everyone is going to notice how nervous I am. I wouldn't fit in and they'll think less of me. Now, these thoughts are crucial because they shape the way you interpret that event. They create a sense of impending threat, even though the situation might not be dangerous at all. However, these thoughts feel incredibly real in the moment. So, what happens next? The physical response to anxiety. When you feel anxious, your body responds to. You might notice physical symptoms like a racing heart, sweaty palms, trembling hands, dry mouth, a sense of tension or unease. This is your body preparing for what is perceived as a threat. The fight or flight response kicks in. Now remember, this is a perceived or an imagined threat. There is no real threat in the situation. While this response is useful in a genuinely dangerous situation, it's unnecessary in most social interactions. However, it feels very real, which only makes your anxiety seem more valid. Now, let's talk about avoidance, the temporary fix that backfires. Once these thoughts and physical reactions begin, the unnatural or a natural impulse to avoid the situation comes in. Maybe you decide not to attend the event, or you find an excuse to leave early. Perhaps you stay quiet during the meeting, choosing not to engage to avoid drawing attention to yourself. In the short term, this avoidance makes you feel better. You get immediate relief because you're no longer in the situation that causes the anxiety. But here's where things go wrong. Avoidance only strengthens the anxiety in long term. It sends a message to your brain that says, yes, that situation was dangerous, and avoiding it was the right thing to do. So, the next time a similar situation arises, your anxiety is likely to be even stronger because you've reinforced that idea that avoidance is the best way to stay safe. This is how the anxiety cycle perpetuates itself. Now, let's look into the common thought patterns that fuel social anxiety. We'll take a closer look at the kinds of distorted thinking patterns that fuel social anxiety. These thought patterns are often based on assumptions or worst case scenarios rather than reality. Number one is mind reading. This happens when you assume you know what others are thinking about you, are usually in a negative way. You might think everyone thinks I am weird or they are judging me because I'm not talking much. The truth is, we can't read other people's minds. And more often than not, people are too focused on themselves to notice small things about you. Number two is catastrophizing. Now, this is when you expect the worst possible outcome. For instance, you might think if I say something wrong, everyone will laugh at me. I'll be humiliated. In reality, most people aren't as critical as we imagine them to be. Even if a mistake happens, it's unlikely to be as catastrophic as you fear. Number three is personalization. Now, this involves blaming yourself for things that aren't really your responsibility. For example, if there's a lull in the conversation, you might assume it's your fault for not keeping the conversation going. But conversations are a shared responsibility, and the silences are a natural part of them. Now, let's understand how to break the anxiety cycle. Now, we've identified the anxiety cycle and the thoughts that drive it. Now, let's see how to break free from it. I'm not going to overwhelm you with complicated techniques, but instead offer straightforward strategies that are easier to apply in daily life. Number one is gradual exposure. Start small. The idea here is to face your fears, but gradually. Start with small, manageable steps. If attending a large social event feels too daunting, begin with something smaller, maybe a one on one coffee with a friend. If you fear speaking in front of a group, start by asking a question or making a brief comment in a smaller setting. The key is not to overwhelm yourself, but to practice facing situations that cause anxiety little by little. Over time, as you face more situations successfully, your brain starts to realize that these events aren't as dangerous as they once seemed. Number two is challenging your thoughts. Reality check with your fears. When those anxious, distorted thoughts like personalization, catastrophizing, or mind reading comes in, take a moment to step back and question them. Ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this worst case scenario will happen? Am I assuming the worst without considering other possibilities? Has this actually happened before, or is it just a fear? By challenging your thoughts, you disrupt the anxiety cycle. You stop taking those fearful predictions as facts and open up to the possibility that things might go better than you expect. Number three is stopping the overthinking pattern and staying in the present. Now, one of the hallmarks in the social anxiety is overthinking. You're constantly worrying about how you're coming across, what others are thinking, and what might happen next. Now, this kind of thinking takes you out of the moment and makes it harder for you to enjoy or engage in interaction. A simple way to stop overthinking is to focus on what's happening right now. You don't need to have everything planned out or to be a perfect person in the conversation or any social interaction. Pay attention to the conversation as it unfolds and try not to worry about where it's going. Remind yourself that you don't have to be constantly analyzing. Number four is setting realistic expectations. Now, social anxiety often arises from unrealistic expectations. You might feel the pressure to be the most interesting or engaging person in the room, but that's not a reasonable or necessary expectation. It's it's okay to be yourself even if you're quieter or not the most outgoing. By lowering the expectations you set for yourself, you can reduce the pressure and give yourself permission to be present even if it's not the perfect. Number five is have a go to comforting practice. Now, when anxiety hits, it can feel overwhelming. Having a simple, comforting practice can help you manage it in the moment. For example, take slow, deep breaths to calm your body. Focus on feeling of your feet on the ground or the texture of something nearby you. Use your senses to reorient yourself in the present moment. Step away for a few minutes if you need to recharge. These small actions can provide quick relief and help you regain a sense of control. Now, dealing with the fear of judgment. One of the core fears behind social anxiety is the fear of judgment. But here's the truth, most people are less focused on you than you think. We often believe that everyone is watching our every move, but in reality, people are usually caught up in their own thoughts and concerns. When you start to realize that the spotlight isn't on you, the pressure eases. It's helpful to remind yourself that people are likely not to pay so much attention as you imagine. And even if they are, usually they are not as critical as your anxious thoughts are suggesting you. Social anxiety can feel incredibly isolating and difficult to manage, but it's not something you have to face alone. By understanding the anxiety cycle and what avoidance does to you, along with the distorted thinking, and using small manageable strategies like we discussed today, you face your fears and you can begin to take back control. It's not about eliminating anxiety altogether. It's about learning to manage in ways that allow you to live more freely and comfortably. If these feelings ever become too overwhelming, there's no shame in reaching out for help, whether it's through therapy, talking to a loved one, or connecting with support groups. You can help and bring back bring back control and make your anxiety manageable. Take care of yourself and know that you're making progress by simply being here today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful.